So my promise to you is very simple. At the end of this lesson, you are going to know how to identify the center of the circle and also know how to graph the equation of a circle using desmos. All right, the graphing utility to do these type of things. All right, so first let's start off with the parts of a circle. Now, as you know, the circumference is obviously going around the circle. The center is in the middle. The diameter is from the circumference through the center of the circle, and of course, the radius is from the center to the circumference. Chord is obviously from the circumference to another point on the circumference, right? So we're going to focus on the red part, which is the radius. All right, so now that you're familiar with the parts of a circle, let's get into it. So you know the standard form of a circle is x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared is equal to r squared, right there. Now, the question is, identify the center and radius of the graph, then write down the equation of the circle. Right, so how do we do that? So you can see here we have a circle and we need to identify the center and also the radius. So how do we do that? Right, we know that the h and the k, that represents the center. In other words, we are looking at this point right here. So this point right here, as you can see here, the coordinate is 4. So we have a 4 for the h. And for the k, we have this point right here, which is 3. So we've identified our h and our k, our center, right? It's 4 and 3. Now the next step would be just to substitute it into our little formula or the standard form of the circle equation. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to rewrite everything as is. So there's my x. Now a nice little trick that you can do is to write down this negative, again, write it down, and just put everything else inside of a bracket. Yeah. So it's going to do the same on the other side. So y minus. Right, so let's go and substitute now. So the h, that's 4, so I'm just going to put it in there. And the k is 3, so I'm just going to put it in there. So we have 3 right there. And my radius, now the radius is from the center to the circumference. Right. And you can see clearly here that we're moving from the center 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3. So the radius is 3. Right. Do you always have to go this way? No. You can go up, you can go left, you can go down, you can go in any direction as long as you go from the center, if this is the center, and this is clearly the center, right? But this way we can see it better. So this way we can see it better, this way we can see it better, this way we can see it better, this way we can see it better. Right? And we can clearly see that it's 3, right? 3 blocks, right? So that will be the radius. So that will be 3. Now the next step, just put my positive and my square properly there. Right, so my x is still there. Now, I'm just going to show my work, right? So, a minus times a positive, well, that is just minus 4. And of course, the square is still there. Just, oops, just make that properly there. And now, negative times positive. That is negative, right? So we have y, and we said that negative multiplied by positive, that is negative 3. And my square is still there. And of course, 3 squared, well, that is just 9. And there you have it. So the equation of this circle is x minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 all squared is equal to 9. Right. But you might be wondering, but hold on, you said the radius is 3. Yeah, but remember, if we square the 3, because that's what our formula is saying, then we get 9. So 3 squared is 9. And the opposite of squaring, that is just square root. So the square root of 9, well, that just takes us back to 3. Okay. But this right here, this would be our final answer. Right. So let's look at one more example. Now, use the information provided to write the equation of the circle, then sketch the graph using desmos. So we have a center and we have a radius. So first step, let's identify our h and our k. So the h is always written first and the k is always written second. Okay. So h is 13 and k is negative 13. The radius is 4, right? So that's my r. Now I'm just going to substitute. So I'm just going to do this substitution. So I'm just going to write that down. So we have our x. This minus, I'm just going to rewrite it again. And I'm going to put my brackets because I'm going to substitute next. My x is still there. Oh, sorry, my y. This negative still there. I'm going to put my brackets because I'm going to substitute. And now I'm going to substitute. So the h is 13, so that goes right there. My k is negative 13, so that goes right there. And my radius is 4, and that goes right there. Now, we're just going to simplify. So x, so minus times positive, that will give us minus 13. Then we put our square, then everything else stays the same. Y, and this is why it's so important to actually put your brackets, because if these values are negative, then it's imperative that you put your brackets just to show your work, how the signs change. And that's basically what I'm doing right now. So minus times positive, minus times minus, that will be positive. So we have positive 13 squared equals to, and 4 squared, that is just 16. And there we have our equation in standard form and the moment of truth. So let's go over to Desmos and let's type in our equation and see whether this is a circle with a radius of 4 and a center of 13 and negative 13. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to type it in. So x minus, so I'll just take off my caps here. So x minus 13 squared plus y plus 13 squared. That's equal to 16. Right, so let's just zoom out a little bit just to see. There's our little circle and the moment of truth. We want to see now whether the center is really 13 and negative 13. So 13, comma. If I should type in my negative 30 now, I'm expecting it to appear right here in the center of the circle. So negative 13. Bingo, right there, bullseye in the middle. Now, when you use decimal, just make sure that you use a comma, all right, when you type in your coordinates, all right? So that's basically how we do it in decimals. Right, let's do one more example. And I'm sure you all can see that. So now I give you the equation and I'm asking you, identify the center and radius of each, then sketch the graph using decimals. All right, so let's see. So we know that the h goes with the x. So that's my h. And the k goes with the y. So the center then is, now here's the little trick I want to show you. So what you can do is, remember this negative is part of this 14, so it's negative 14. Now we're going to take the additive inverse of negative 14. So what's the additive of negative 14? Well, that is just positive 14. In other words, the opposite. So the opposite of negative 14 is positive 14. Now what's the additive inverse of negative 5? That is just positive 5. And there's my center, 14 and 5. How do we find the radius? Well, we just take the square root of 16. And the square root of 16 is equal to 4. Right, now let's check this using decimals. So I'm just going to, so x minus 14 and y minus 5. So y minus 5. Right, so there we have our circle and the moment of truth. So we said that, remember, we take the opposite of negative 14, which is positive 14. We take the opposite of negative 5, which is positive 5. And bingo, right there. That's my center. Right? So, and that's how we do it in decimals. Now, I just want to point this out. Now, sometimes you might see it written like this, where the y is written first and then the x second. Yeah. Now, remember, this is the standard form, which is x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equal to r squared. Now, you might see it in reverse, where the y is written first and then the x, but everything else stays the same. All right, so don't get confused. So remember, like I mentioned, the h goes with the x. So this is my h and my k will be 5, right? So exact same example, right? Exact same. So this one, this one. I hope you can see that. So my h is still, what's the opposite of negative 14? It will be positive 14. And what's the opposite of negative 5? Well, that is just positive 5. So how do we get the radius? We take the square root of 16, which is equal to 4. Right, now let's graph this quickly. Now, you can see this circle is in purple. Now I'm just going to do the other one. So let me just copy and paste this quickly. Change that to y, and let's make that 5. Now this one is going to appear in, okay, let's make it to appear in, so let's make it red so that you can see. Now when I'm done with this equation, it's going to be on top of the circle, and it would obviously mean that it's exactly the same. And that's actually what I want to show. So minus 5, and then of course we have x minus 14. And exactly what I said. And of course the radius is 4, and everything else is still the same. So you can see, if I turn this off, I'm going to see the purple circle. So just turn it on. If I turn this off, I'll see the red circle, which means these two are exactly the same. Right? And that's basically how we do it. All right. So thank you so much for watching.